Hello there, wonderful people. As you probably saw by the title, I published a book. Hey! It is called Musings on a Margin, and it is on Amazon worldwide. Also, please ignore the glasses going to one side. I actually completely broke them, and I'm trying to keep them on so I can see. And I can't get new ones for a while, so he's gonna have to do. But in this video, I'm going to talk about what it was like writing a poetry book and publishing it, and I'm also going to read you a couple of poems in the book so you can get an idea of what's in there. So, the first question is, why did I decide to publish a book? I actually wasn't originally intending to put my poetry in a book. I started writing poetry when I was 16, just for fun and just for an outlet. But after a while, my friend said to me, you should make a poetry book, and at first I was like, no, I don't think I'll do that. But then I realised that actually that's quite a good idea, because I don't really think I have anything to lose by doing that, and also, I had enough poetry that I could put it into a book, so why wouldn't I try? So, my friend gave me the idea, and then, my other friend told me about Amazon KDP, which I will get onto in another question. But the original intention wasn't actually to write a book, but it became a book, because I put all my poetry together in Canva and formatted it and published it. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but there we go. So, the next question is, how did I publish it? Amazon KDP. KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. You can self-publish for free, and basically you get most of the profits, Amazon gets some. My book is also on Barnes & Noble because I ticked expanded distribution option, so it can also be sold at other places other than Amazon now, which I think is pretty amazing, and honestly it's just amazing to see my poetry being sold places. Again, I didn't think that would happen, but I'm very, very grateful. I was originally going to get it formally published with a publishing company, but the problem is, I've got stuff about PANS and chronic Lyme in the book, which unfortunately some people deem controversial, even though it's not, it's real, but I knew that some publishers wouldn't like that it's controversial. And there's also some poems about religious trauma and medical gaslighting, and again, some people think they're controversial, even though they are things that people experience. But because there was so much that could potentially be seen as controversial, I just decided to self-publish it, just to be on the safe side, because I was worried that it would get rejected because of the controversy. One day I would really like to make another book. I am currently working on a second already, but the second one isn't a poetry book. Of course, I can't really go into it fully now, but it's a sort of novel type thing. So I'm working on that currently, and this one that I'm currently writing, I'm hoping that I can get formally published. I'm going to try my best. For the cover design on this book, I also used Canva. These pictures inside the book, I'll show you. So these pictures inside the book, they're actually photos that I took that I put into a filter to make them look like a drawing, because I cannot draw. And then I used a virtual drawing app to sort of put a white fuzzy marker around the edges to make it look like it was sort of blurring out. Again, this is a photo of a rose I took, and it's also on the front cover, and I put it in the filter to make it look like a drawing, and I'm quite happy with that. There's a little flower I took a picture of. This one isn't a photo, this is just my terrible attempt at drawing, and just from that you can see that I should not be illustrating. But I would just like to read a couple of poems in this little book, just a couple to show you, what sort of poems are in it. So this is actually one of the first ones I wrote. I made this when I was 16, or was it 17? No, I think I was 16. It says, when I'm old and frail and ready to depart from this world to another, somewhere afar, I'll look back on my years, and what will it matter? My financial success or my expensive desires? What really matters is the difference I made. To one life or another, how did it change? My love will be remembered, my compassion lives on. My legacy is one of care, empathy, and more. Flashes of this lifetime bombard my mind's eye, like a vivid dream sequence, it'll never really die. My soul's encased with gratitude for the beauty of this earth. It's not to be forgotten, and will always live on. When my body decays after rigor mortis, I'm not really gone, as my essence lives on. For when the warmth of the air caresses your soul, just remember, that's me. I hope you haven't forgot. I'll see you again, in a timeless space, where we will rejoice and lovingly embrace. A sacred reunion, hello and goodbye. And I'll see you again, in the next lifetime. The book is 144 pages, so It's pretty long for a poetry book, but, you know, I just wanted to make it as thorough as possible so that it was worth people's money if they were to buy it. There's a neurodivergent collection where the poems are about things like Tourette's and autism and injustice and discrimination. There's some love poems. The mental health collection, I believe, is the biggest collection. I have a lot of mental health related poems. There's a very meaningful one called Pan's the Beast. Pupils dilated like a gaping abyss. A cog in the brain seems to have gone all amiss. The gates of my psyche became open to hell. My happiness locked in an old prison cell. My thoughts aren't my own, they belong to a beast. My rational thinking seems to be deceased, with doubts about locks and keys and taps, doubts about living, love, and relapse. Have I lost my mind? Or is it the moon? Could this just be a normal summer afternoon? I'm in denial of the downfall of my mind, but why don't I remember all that I left behind? This beast we call Pans, the monster in my mind. He will ruin your plans and leave you confined. People seem to ignore that this monster exists, calling it a mental illness blind to the fix. When antibiotics could bring you back to life, why don't doctors just try it with these symptoms so rife? There's also a little explanation of Pans in here, because some of the poems do come with explanations after them, just to clarify what it's about, because of course not everyone's heard of Pans, so there's also a bit of education in it as well. This is the back cover. It makes me really, really happy to have been able to publish that, as you can probably tell, because when I was 16 and I started writing poetry, I fell in love with writing, but I didn't think that I would actually publish it in a book or anything like that. I just thought I'd post a few poems online, leave a few, but I published it, and I think my 16-year-old self will be proud of that, especially as I've struggled with chronic illness more than I ever thought I would. But yeah, I published it, and I am kind of proud of myself for that. Not in an arrogant way, I just didn't think that I would do it, but, you know, it's really inspired me to write more. As I said, I'm currently trying to write another book. That's not a poetry book, but I am also continuing to write poetry because it's just something I like to do, so there might be another poetry book one day too. In terms of the name of the book, Musings on a Margin, that was actually my mum who came up with that name, and I think it's a really nice name. I was originally going to call it Marginalised Musings, but Musings on a Margin I think is much better. It just sounds better, and it's play on words, you know, margin to do with paper, and a lot of the poems I actually started jotting down in the margin of my college notebook, so it's very apt. I just hope that the mental health poems can be soothing and can be reassuring and can help people feel comforted and know they're not alone. And I hope that the chronic illness collection can either educate people who aren't familiar with chronic illness or can help people who have chronic illness feel more understood. The love poems in there, ironically, aren't actually from my experience because I wrote them before I'd ever gotten into a serious relationship. They're really creative writing, the love ones. They're some of the earliest poems that I wrote. I wrote them at 16, early 17, before my chronic illness exploded and overtook my life, and then obviously I started on writing the chronic illness collection because I was kind of writing about my experiences to document it in a way and as an outlet, but it makes for some pretty cool poetry too. I'm not fully sure why I went with the black and yellow colour scheme. I think it's because it reminded me of gold, and I did a tint of yellow that looked kind of goldish to me, and I wanted it to look elegant, so I thought like black and gold is a very elegant colour combination, so I think that's just why I decided on those colours together. And if anyone's asking how I broke my glasses, I have this thing, like a stim, where I kind of take them off my face and I shake them, but I don't realise I'm doing it. It's very unconscious, and unfortunately I was doing that and I was like shaking them without realising I was doing it, and I did it so much that it snapped, so you know, that's not so great, but I have to wait a while before I can get a new pair because it takes a couple of weeks, so oh well, I have to walk around with these for a while. It took me a grand total of 3 months of having glasses to completely destroy them. Anyway, you know, if you would like to read the book, I will put the link in the description below to buy it from Amazon UK, Amazon USA, Amazon Canada. Basically, it's on Amazon worldwide. So if you just search Musings on a Margin by Romy Worthington into Amazon, it should come up. It's also on Barnes & Noble. I am also going to work on releasing an audiobook for it, because of course that's more accessible. I did try an audiobook recording, but I was talking too fast. I talk too fast, so I'm going to re-record that much slower, which is hard for me because I'm very hyper, but I'm going to try and record it slower, and then I'll be trying to put that on Audible. I'm not sure if it will let me, but I'll do my best. I think I can get it on there, and then it'll be available for purchase on there as well. I'll put it in a video when the audiobook's out. It takes a little while because it requires audio editing and things, but that will be done at some point too. There are 3 poems that are specifically about medical gaslighting, and that's because that was something that affected me a lot, and sadly also affects many others in the chronic illness community. So I wrote some poems about them, and you know, it's all about not dismissing patients, not assuming that it's all medically unexplained, not assuming that just because you're young it's all in your mind. There's quite a few poems about that, 3 specific, but there's also reference to it in a couple of others. So if you've experienced medical gaslighting, then it might be something that you could relate to. There's also 2 poems specifically about bullying. So it's really a collection of lots of things that disabled and chronically ill people might face that I wrote poetry about. And yes, that is my eye on the back. And again, I took a picture of my eye, put it into a filter that made it look like a drawing, and then I put it into an app that allows you to draw over it. It allows you to draw over it, so I added this little yellow drawing over it. But yeah, I am hoping to do another poetry book one day, and I hope the other poetry book can be a bit more positive, because this one, there is some darkness in it, but I mean, if you're writing about mental health and chronic illness, it's not going to be particularly bright. So, I mean, particularly bright. Bright means intelligent. I would hope that it's intelligent writing. I mean, it's not very light-hearted, you know, because it's a very raw account of mental health and chronic illness, so it's not all happy and stuff. I would say, you know, not suitable for young children. I doubt a young child would want to read it, but it's more for, like, older teenagers and adults, I would say, probably. Thank you so much for watching my little tangent. I hope that if you buy the book that you like it, and I hope that I will be able to get the audiobook out soon. I'm going to start working on that as soon as possible and try to talk slower. Thanks for watching. Bye!